Before we begin this enchanting tale of fate, music, and a love that blooms against all odds, tell us in the comments below, which city are you watching this video from? Let's see how far this heartfelt melody travels. The Street Violinist, The Grieving Millionaire, and a lullaby of hope. "Please, sir, don't go," Esperanza whispered, her voice broken, tears mingling with the snowflakes falling on her cheeks. "Your baby, she needs the music." Sebastian froze, slowly turning towards the young violinist, who looked at him with desperate eyes. Sophia, who had been crying non-stop for hours, now rested silently against his chest, as if the violin's notes had been a spell, calming her. "How do you know what she needs?" he asked, his voice a mixture of awe and pain. "The doctors don't know what to do with her, because I also cried like that when I was a baby," Esperanza replied, wiping her tears. "My grandmother used to tell me that only music calmed me down. Babies feel things adults don't understand." Snow fell harder on the streets of San Telmo, and the yellowish glow of the street lamp created a magical circle around the three of them. Esperanza Morales, 28 years old, had been playing her violin on that corner for 3 hours and had only collected a few coins. Her fingers were numb with cold, but she kept playing when she saw the tall, elegant man approach with a baby in his arms. Sebastian Herrera never walked the streets at night. As CEO of Herrera Tech, his world was limited to heated offices and chauffeured cars. But ever since Elena died 3 months ago, nights had become a living hell. Sophia cried incessantly, and he didn't know how to comfort her. Could you keep playing a little longer?" he asked, pulling out his wallet. "I'll pay you whatever you want." Esperanza looked at him curiously. The man wore a coat that cost more than her 6 months' rent, but his eyes showed a weariness she knew well. It was the weariness of someone who has lost something important. "I don't need you to pay me extra," she said softly. "Just, can I know her name?" "The baby's, I mean, Sophia," he replied, and his voice softened as he uttered the name. "Her name is Sophia Elena." "Sophia," Esperanza repeated, and began to play a melody she had learned from her grandmother in Caracas. "This song is from Venezuela, where I was born. My grandmother used to sing it to me when I couldn't sleep." Sebastian felt something break inside his chest. Elena was also Venezuelan, though he had never given it much thought. Now, listening to this strange and beautiful melody, he felt as if his wife were there, watching over their daughter through the music of this stranger. "Thank you," he murmured, and placed several bills in the violin case. "Tomorrow. Will you be here tomorrow?" "Every day," Esperanza replied, "until I get a job in an orchestra." Sebastian nodded and walked away slowly, Sophia sleeping peacefully in his arms. He didn't realize that his business card had fallen from his pocket when he pulled out the money. Esperanza continued playing until he disappeared into the snow. Then, trembling with cold, she began to pack her things. When she saw the bills, she couldn't believe the amount, but beneath the money, she found something that made her heart stop. A card that read, "Sebastian Herrera, CEO Herrera Tech." Her violin fell from her hands. Herrera Tech was the company that sponsored the National Conservatory's scholarship program, the program that had been canceled 6 months ago, leaving her without the scholarship she had won after years of effort. The program that had ruined her life and forced her to play on the streets to survive. The man who had just shown her so much kindness, whose daughter had found peace in her music, was the same man whose company had destroyed her dreams. Esperanza stood there in the snow, the card trembling in her hands, feeling as if fate was mocking her in the cruelest way possible. "Are you going to tell me why you've been smiling like a fool all week?" Mrs. Mercedes asked, as she wiped down the coffee cups, observing Esperanza with that maternal gaze that made her feel at home. Esperanza looked up from the coffee maker she was cleaning and blushed. "I don't know what you're talking about, Mrs. Mercedes." Of course you do. Since Monday you've been singing, and yesterday I saw you practicing scales with a smile. Who is he? He? Esperanza feigned surprise. There's no he. Mercedes approached and gave her an affectionate pat on the shoulder. Honey, I'm 70 years old and have 5 children. I know when a woman is thinking about a man. I just hope he's not another one of those jobless musicians. If only you knew, Esperanza thought. It had been a week since Sebastian appeared every night on the same corner, always with Sophia in his arms. They never talked much, but there was something about those silent encounters that made her feel less alone. The problem was that every time she saw him, she remembered the card in her nightstand drawer. Sebastian Herrera, the man who had unknowingly ruined her future, was also the man who made her present make sense. It's complicated, she finally murmured. Love is always complicated, honey. The simple stuff isn't worth it. Meanwhile, in the Herrera tech offices, Sebastian reviewed reports without paying attention. His mind was on the corner of San Telmo, waiting for nightfall. Sebastian, are you listening to me? Diego's voice, his partner, snapped him out of his thoughts. Sorry, what were you saying? I was asking about the budget for the next quarter. But more importantly, what's wrong with you? For days now you've been different. Sebastian leaned back in his chair. Diego had been his best friend since college, the only person who had been with him through the entire grieving process for Elena. Sophia is sleeping better, he finally said. She's been calmer. That's great, brother. Did you change her routine? Something like that. Diego looked at him suspiciously, but didn't press. He knew Sebastian well enough to know when he didn't want to talk. That night, like all the others, Sebastian walked toward San Telmo with Sophia. The baby had developed a kind of internal clock. She would start fussing exactly at 9 o'clock, as if she knew it was time for her musical appointment. Esperanza was already in her spot when he arrived. As always, she smiled shyly and began to play. This time she chose a piece by Vivaldi she had learned at the conservatory before everything got complicated. That's beautiful, Sebastian said when she finished. What's it called? The Four Seasons, she replied. The winter part. Appropriate for this time of year. He smiled, and Esperanza felt her heart skip a beat. Your wife, did she like classical music? She asked, unable to stop herself. Sebastian's smile faded a little. Yes, very much. Elena she was very cultured. She spoke several languages, knew about art, about music. I was always more about numbers and technology. I'm sure she would have wanted Sophia to grow up loving music. I hope so, he murmured. Though I don't know if I'm the right one to teach her. I can barely keep her calm. But you're doing well, Esperanza said with conviction. Sophia looks happy and healthy, and the fact that she responds to music means she already has good taste. Sebastian looked at her with gratitude. It had been months since anyone had told him he was doing something right as a father. Do you have children? He asked. No, Esperanza replied. But I have many nieces and nephews in Venezuela. I miss them very much. How long have you been in Argentina? 2 years. I came to study at the conservatory, but things didn't go as planned. Sebastian noticed the sadness in her voice, but didn't want to pressure her. That night was colder than usual, and Esperanza couldn't hide that she was trembling. Her numb fingers began to falter on the most difficult notes. Come on, Sebastian said impulsively. There's a hotel nearby. You can play in the lobby. It's warm in there. Esperanza hesitated. It was the first time he had suggested changing their routine. I don't know if they'll let me. I'll handle it. 20 minutes later, they were sitting in the elegant lobby of the Imperial Hotel, with Sophia sleeping peacefully in her father's arms, while Esperanza played softly so as not to disturb other guests. This is surreal, she murmured. I never thought I'd be giving a private concert in a 5-star hotel. And I never thought I'd be listening to classical music at midnight with my daughter, Sebastian replied. Life is strange, isn't it? Very strange, Esperanza agreed. thinking of the card she kept as a guilty secret. When the concierge brought them hot coffee without anyone asking, Esperanza knew that this man had a power she would never have. Sebastian Herrera lived in a world where doors opened on their own, where people said yes before he even asked anything. It was a world that had been within her reach until her scholarship disappeared. "Thank you," she told him when they were getting ready to leave. "For the coffee, for everything. Thank you," he replied. "I don't know what I'd do without these nights." As they walked toward the exit, Esperanza wondered if she would ever have the courage to tell him the truth about who he really was, and why she knew his name long before he told her. "Sebastian, we need to talk," Carmen said, entering her brother's office without knocking. "It's about those nightly outings of yours." Sebastian looked up from his computer, annoyed by the interruption. "Good morning to you too, Carmen. Don't be funny. Diego told me you've been coming in late every morning, and the nanny tells me Sofia has been sleeping perfectly for weeks. What's going on?" "Sofia is better. That's what matters." Carmen sat across from him, with that expression she used since they were children, when she knew he was hiding something. "Did you meet someone?" "Carmen! Elena died 4 months ago, Sebastian. If you found someone who helps you with Sofia, I think it's perfect. I just want to know who she is." Sebastian sighed. His older sister had always been overprotective, but since Elena's death, she had become unbearable. "She's a musician. She plays the violin on the street. Sofia calms down when she listens to her." "A street musician?" Carmen frowned. "Sebastian, please tell me you're not falling for a stranger who—" "I'm not falling for anyone," he interrupted abruptly. "She's just—" "Elena loved music. Maybe Sofia inherited that from her." Carmen studied him. She knew her brother better than anyone, and that defensive expression told her everything she needed to know. That same night, the strongest snowstorm of the winter hit Buenos Aires. Sebastian arrived at his usual corner, but Esperanza wasn't there. He searched the nearby streets, with Sofia crying under his coat, until he found her taking refuge at a bus stop. "Are you okay?" he asked, rushing over. "Yes, just—" "She couldn't play in this storm," she replied, trembling. "My fingers won't obey me when it's so cold." "Let's go get something warm," he said without thinking. "I know a place that's open all night." Café Tortoni had closed due to the storm, so they ended up in a small neighborhood diner that served coffee and media lunas 24 hours a day. It was a very different place from the elegant hotel of the previous week, but Esperanza felt more comfortable there. "I never asked your name," Sebastian said, as he blew on his coffee. Esperanza felt a knot in her stomach. She had been avoiding this moment for weeks. "Esperanza," she replied. "Esperanza Morales." "Esperanza," he repeated, and his smile made her feel guilty for all the secrets she kept. "It's a beautiful name. Is it common in Venezuela?" "Quite. My grandmother used to say that names have power, that they give you strength to keep going when everything gets tough." "Your grandmother sounds wise." "She was. She taught me to play the violin. She said music was the only language everyone understood, no matter where they came from." Sebastian nodded, thinking of Elena. She also spoke like that about music. "How did you end up in Argentina?" he asked. Esperanza took a deep breath. It was time to tell part of the truth, though not all of it. "I got a scholarship to study at the National Conservatory. It was my dream since I was a child, to play in important orchestras, give concerts." Her voice broke a little. "But the scholarship was canceled after 6 months. Budget problems, they said." "I'm so sorry," Sebastian said sincerely. "That must have been devastating." "It was. But oh well. Now I play on the streets and work in a cafe. It's not what I dreamed of, but it's honest." "Did you ever think of going back to Venezuela?" Esperanza shook her head. "There's no future for anyone there now. Here, at least I can eat every day and have a roof over my head. And who knows, maybe someday things will get better." Sebastian watched her as she spoke. There was pain in her eyes, but also a strength that impressed him. This woman had lost her dreams and still kept going, playing music for strangers on the freezing streets. Elena was also Venezuelan, he said suddenly. Esperanza almost choked on her coffee. Really? Yes. She came here 10 years ago, when things started to get bad there. She never talked much about her country. I think it hurt her a lot to have left it. How did you meet? At a charity gala. She worked for an NGO that helped refugees. I went because my company sponsored the event. Elena lectured me all night about corporate social responsibility. He laughed sadly. I had never met anyone so passionate about helping others. Esperanza felt a pang of pain. Elena had been the kind of person she would have admired, and now she was occupying her place in her widower's thoughts. She must have been an incredible woman. She was, and she would have loved to meet you. She always said Argentina needed more artists like those who came from Venezuela, who had a special passion for music. Sebastian's words were like a knife to Esperanza's chest. Elena had defended artists like her, and possibly influenced her company's decision to sponsor scholarships. What would Elena have thought if she knew her widower was falling in love with one of the beneficiaries of those programs? Sebastian, she began to say, but he interrupted her. I know this is going to sound strange, but do you believe in signs? That people come into your life when you need them? Esperanza didn't know what to answer, because when I listen to you play, I feel as if Elena is there, as if she sent me an angel to take care of Sofia when I didn't know how. Tears began to well up in Esperanza's eyes. I'm not an angel, Sebastian. I'm just a woman trying to survive. To me, you're much more than that. The next day, Carmen appeared at the cafe where Esperanza worked. Mrs. Mercedes was at the market, so Esperanza was alone when the elegant 40-year-old woman entered and sat at a corner table. Are you Esperanza Morales? Carmen asked without preamble. Yes. Do I know you? I'm Carmen Herrera, Sebastian's sister. I think we need to talk. Esperanza's heart stopped. I know who you are, Carmen continued. I know about your canceled scholarship. I know you work here during the day and play on the streets at night. And I know my brother is falling in love with you. Mrs. Herrera, The question is, what do you want from him? Is it a coincidence that you appeared in his life just when he's most vulnerable? It's not what you think, Esperanza whispered. Oh, really? Then explain to me why you never told him you know who he is. Explain to me why you didn't tell him you knew his company's name before you even met him. Esperanza was speechless. Listen to me closely, Carmen continued. My brother lost the love of his life 4 months ago. He's raising a baby alone, struggling with a depression he can barely handle. If you're playing with him for money or for revenge, I swear to you that it's not about that, Esperanza burst out. I didn't seek this out. I didn't seek to fall in love with him. Carmen was silent for a moment. Then why didn't you tell him the truth? Because I knew he would think exactly what you're thinking. That I'm an opportunist taking advantage of his pain. And maybe you're right to think that, Carmen said, standing up. But there's something else you should know. Elena wasn't just Venezuelan. Before she died, she specifically asked Sebastian to continue supporting artists and refugees from her country. The scholarship program wasn't canceled due to lack of budget. It was canceled because the previous director stole the funds. Elena died without knowing that girls like you lost their opportunities because of a thief. Esperanza felt dizzy. If you truly love him, stay away from him, Carmen finished, because when he finds out the truth, and he will, he'll think all you wanted was to get your scholarship back, and that will destroy him. Carmen left the cafe, leaving Esperanza crying in silence, the weight of all her secrets crushing her like a mountain of snow. Where is she? Sebastian asked Mrs. Mercedes for the 3rd time that week. She hasn't been at her corner for 5 days. The old woman looked at him sadly from behind the cafe counter. I already told you, young man. Esperanza had to leave due to family matters. She didn't tell me when she'd be back. But is she okay? Did something happen to her? Mercedes sighed. The note Esperanza had left her was clear. If the man with the baby asks about me, tell him I had a family emergency. Please, don't give him any more details. Thank you for everything, Mrs. Mercedes. I'll miss you. She's okay, but very sad. I think you know why. Sebastian ran his hands through his hair, desperate. Sophia had started crying every night again since Esperanza disappeared. He couldn't sleep either, but not just because of the baby's crying. If you know where she is, please. Even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. Mercedes interrupted. That girl has suffered a lot. If she decided to leave, she has her reasons. Sebastian left the cafe feeling defeated. He had hired a private investigator. He had asked in all the places she could have gone, but Esperanza seemed to have vanished. Meanwhile, in Cordoba, Esperanza served tables in a small family restaurant. She had been there for 2 months and had managed not to touch her violin even once. The instrument remained stored in the closet of her tiny room, a reminder of everything she had lost. "Esperanza, table 4!" the owner shouted from the kitchen. She picked up the tray with resignation. This was her life now, serving food to tourists and trying not to think about Buenos Aires, trying not to think about Sebastian, trying not to think about Sophia. But the nights were the worst. When everything was silent, she could hear Carmen's voice in her mind. If you truly love him, stay away from him. She had done the right thing. Sebastian would find someone from his world, someone who didn't carry secrets and resentments. Sophia would grow up happy with a stepmother who had nothing to hide. So why did she feel like she had made the worst mistake of her life? In Buenos Aires, Carmen watched her brother with growing concern. She had gotten what she wanted. Esperanza had disappeared from their lives. But Sebastian was worse than ever. "When was the last time you slept?" she asked him one afternoon, finding him in his office at 10 at night. "Sophia was bad last night," he mumbled, without looking up from the screen. "Sebastian, look at me." He lifted his head, and Carmen was startled. Her brother had lost weight. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes, and the same empty look he had had after Elena's death. "What did you do?" she asked suddenly. "What?" with Esperanza. "What did you do?" Carmen felt her stomach clench. I just wanted to protect you." "What did you do?" "I went to talk to her. I told her to stay away from you because—" "Carmen!" Sebastian shouted, standing up abruptly. "How could you?" "She was lying to you. She knew who you were from the beginning. Her scholarship was canceled because of our company." Sebastian froze. "What scholarship?" "The one at the National Conservatory. Herrera Tech sponsored the scholarship program for Venezuelan artists. Elena asked you to keep supporting it, remember? But when the director stole the funds, everything was canceled. Esperanza lost her scholarship because of that. And you never told me? You had just become a widower. You weren't going to investigate fraud in scholarship programs." Sebastian felt dizzy. Everything was starting to make sense. The sadness in Esperanza's eyes when she talked about the conservatory, her nervousness when he mentioned his work, the way she always changed the subject when he talked about his company. "She knew me," he murmured. "She knew who I was and never told me." "Exactly. That's why I confronted her, because she was using you." "She wasn't using me!" Sebastian exploded. "If she had wanted anything from me, she would have told me who she was from the beginning. The fact that she kept quiet proves she didn't want anything." Carmen was silent, realizing the truth in her brother's words. "Sebastian, do you know what the worst part is?" he continued. "That Elena died asking for exactly what Esperanza needed. Elena wanted us to keep helping artists like her, and we let her play on the streets while we sponsored galas for rich people who don't need anything." "We can fix this," Carmen said desperately. "We can find her. Explain." No, Sebastian replied. You've already done enough damage. But that night, when Sofia started crying uncontrollably again, Sebastian made a decision. He called his private investigator. I want you to find Esperanza Morales, he told him. She's Venezuelan, a violinist, works somewhere in Argentina, and I want you to investigate everything about the fraud in the National Conservatory's scholarship program. How much do you want to know? Everything. I want names, dates, amounts. I want to know exactly who stole that money and how we can get it back. And if you find her. Sebastian looked at Sofia, who had finally fallen asleep after hours of crying. Then I'm going to go find her, and I'm going to tell her the truth she didn't dare to tell me. 3 days later, he had Esperanza's address in Cordoba, and a complete report on the conservatory director who had diverted funds to offshore accounts. He also had a plan. Are you sure about this? Diego asked as Sebastian packed Sofia's stroller into the car. I've never been surer of anything in my life. What if she doesn't want to see you? Sebastian paused for a moment. Then at least I'll know I tried. But I can't live knowing I let her go without fighting for her. Elena would be proud of you. I hope so, Sebastian replied, because I feel like this is what she would have wanted. That we found a way to help Esperanza, not as a stranger, but as family. As he drove towards Cordoba, with Sofia sleeping in the back seat, Sebastian rehearsed in his mind what he would say to Esperanza. How would he explain that he understood why she had kept the secret? How would he tell her about the foundation he was creating in Elena's memory? How would he ask her to give a chance to something that had started with music in the snow and could end with a family neither of them had expected to find? Esperanza Morales? Sebastian asked the restaurant owner, with Sofia in his arms and his heart pounding like a drum. The man looked at him suspiciously. Who's asking for her? I'm a friend from Buenos Aires. I need to talk to her. Esperanza! He shouted towards the kitchen. Someone's looking for you. When Esperanza came out, wiping her hands on her apron, she froze. Sebastian was there, at the entrance of the small Cordoba restaurant, with Sofia bigger and more beautiful than ever. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice trembling. I came for you. You had no right. Esperanza, please, just 5 minutes. She looked around the restaurant. Some customers had turned to look at them, curious about the drama unfolding before their eyes. Outside, she murmured. My shift ends in 5 minutes. Sebastian waited in the square in front of the restaurant, nervously playing with Sofia. The baby, now 6 months old, seemed to remember something familiar in that place, because she kept looking towards the restaurant door. When Esperanza came out, she had taken off her apron and let her hair down. Sebastian felt the same pang in his chest he had felt the first night he saw her. Speak, she said, crossing her arms. About your scholarship. Esperanza closed her eyes. Carmen told you. She told me her version. Now I want to hear yours. There's nothing to tell. I lost my scholarship. Your company sponsored it. End of story. When did you realize who I was? The first night you dropped a card. Sebastian nodded, as if he had been expecting that answer. And why didn't you tell me? Esperanza looked him in the eyes for the first time since he arrived. Because I knew you would think I was taking advantage of you, like your sister thought. And wasn't that what you were doing? The question hit her like a slap. Seriously? After everything we've been through, you think I— No, he interrupted quickly. I don't think that, but I needed to hear you say it. Esperanza felt tears threaten to well up. I never asked you for anything, Sebastian. I never mentioned my scholarship. I never hinted that you owed me anything. I just played music for your daughter. I know, and that's why I'm here. Sebastian took a step closer, and Sofia reached her tiny hands towards Esperanza, as if recognizing her. The conservatory director stole $500,000, he said. Money Elena had insisted on allocating specifically for Venezuelan artists. When she died, I was so lost that I didn't pay attention to the program. Carmen handled everything, and when we discovered the fraud, it was too late. They had already canceled the scholarships. That doesn't change anything. It changes everything, he replied. Because Elena died believing that money was going to help people like you, and I failed her. You didn't fail her. Yes, I did. But now I want to make things right. Sebastian handed her an envelope he took from his pocket. What is this? The papers to create the Elena Herrera Foundation for Venezuelan artists, with enough funds to grant 20 full scholarships a year, and with you as artistic director. Esperanza opened the envelope with trembling hands. I can't accept this. It's not charity, Esperanza. It's justice, and it's what Elena would have wanted. And what do you want in return? Nothing, he replied. Well, that's not true. I want you to come back to Buenos Aires. I want Sofia to grow up listening to your music, and I want... He paused, searching for the right words. I want you to give me the opportunity to fall in love with you, with no secrets between us. Esperanza felt the world sway beneath her feet. Sebastian, You don't have to answer me now. Just think about it. The foundation will exist with or without you, because it's the right thing to do. But my life, Sofia's life, will be incomplete if you don't come back. At that moment, a car stopped in front of the square, and Mrs. Mercedes got out. Mrs. Mercedes! Esperanza exclaimed, running to hug her. What are you doing here? I came for a silly granddaughter who ran away without saying goodbye, the old woman replied, hugging her tightly. How did you know where? Mercedes looked at Sebastian with a mysterious smile. This young man hired me as a private detective. What? It's a joke, honey. But he did ask me to come. He says there are things you need to know before you make your decision. Mercedes approached Sebastian and took Sofia in her arms, as if she were her own granddaughter. Hello, princess. Did you miss Grandma Mercedes? Mrs. Mercedes, Esperanza said. How do you know Sofia? Because Sofia is my great-granddaughter of the heart, Mercedes replied. Just like you are my granddaughter of the heart. Esperanza looked at her, confused. Honey, I was Elena's music teacher 20 years ago, when she arrived in Buenos Aires. She was like a daughter to me. Esperanza's world came to a complete halt. What? Elena always talked about a very talented young violinist who reminded her of herself when she was a student. A girl from Caracas named Esperanza Morales. When you came to my cafe, I recognized your name immediately. Why did you never tell me? Because it had to happen naturally. Elena asked me before she died that if you ever came to Buenos Aires, I should take care of you like a daughter. But she also asked me to wait for the right moment to tell you the truth. Esperanza sat on a bench in the square, overwhelmed. Elena knew who she was. She knew who you were, where you lived, that you had lost your parents. She followed your career online. When she found out you had gotten the scholarship to come to Argentina, she was the happiest person in the world. Then, when the scholarship was canceled, Elena was in the hospital, very sick. She never knew what had happened. She died believing you were going to arrive in Buenos Aires to fulfill your dreams. Sebastian approached and sat next to Esperanza. Now you understand why I feel like Elena brought us together. It wasn't a coincidence that you appeared in my life just when I needed you most. Elena knew Sofia would need music to grow, and she knew I would need someone who understood what it means to lose everything and keep going. Esperanza looked at Sofia, who watched her with those big, bright eyes that so resembled her father's. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. I don't know if I can take Elena's place. You're not taking anyone's place, Mercedes said. You're creating your own place. Elena wanted Sofia to grow up surrounded by music and love, and she wanted you to have the opportunity to fulfill your dreams. Besides, Sebastian added, Elena already has her place in my heart. She'll always have it. But there's room for more love, Esperanza. There's room for a new story, one she would have wanted us to write together. Esperanza took Sophia's tiny hands in hers. The baby smiled and babbled something that sounded almost like music. "What are you saying, princess?" Mercedes asked Sophia. "Do you want Esperanza to come home with us?" Sophia clapped and laughed, as if she perfectly understood the question. Esperanza looked at Sebastian, saw the love and hope in his eyes, and for the first time in months felt that maybe fate hadn't mocked her after all. Maybe, just maybe, it had guided her exactly where she needed to be. "All right," she whispered. "Let's go home." 5 years had passed since that afternoon in the square in Cordoba, and life had taken a turn none of them would have imagined. "Mommy Espe! Mommy Espe!" Sophia shouted, running down the hallway of the house, her small violin in one hand and a crumpled piece of sheet music in the other. "Play the whole song." Esperanza came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands, with a smile that no longer showed any trace of the sadness that had once accompanied her. "Really? Elena's grandmother's song?" "Yes. Do you want to listen?" "Of course, my love." Sophia, now 5 years old, had her father's dark hair, but bright eyes full of music, like only a child raised amidst melodies can have. She tucked the small violin under her chin with the seriousness of a professional concert violinist and began to play the Venezuelan lullaby that Esperanza had taught her years ago. "Espe!" Sebastian shouted from his home office. "The papers arrived!" Esperanza felt her heart quicken. They had been waiting for those documents for months. "What papers?" Sophia asked, stopping her playing. "The adoption papers, princess," Sebastian replied, appearing in the living room with an official envelope in his hands and his eyes bright with emotion. "The papers that say Mommy Espe is officially your mom forever." "But wasn't she already my mommy forever?" Sophia asked, with the crushing logic of 5-year-olds. Esperanza knelt in front of her and hugged her. "In our hearts, yes, my love. But now it's also official on all the important papers." "Does that mean she's never going to leave again?" "Never again," Esperanza promised, remembering those terrible months in Cordoba, when she had thought that leaving was best for everyone. "Great!" Sophia exclaimed. "Can we play together to celebrate?" Half an hour later, Mrs. Mercedes arrived with a chocolate cake and found her makeshift family in the living room. Sebastian at the piano he had bought the previous year, Esperanza with her professional violin that she now played in the National Symphony Orchestra on weekends, and Sophia with her small violin, all performing a very unique version of Happy Birthday, mixed with Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. "And what's this celebration for?" Mercedes asked, though she already knew the answer from the excited call she had received from Sebastian an hour earlier. "The papers arrived, Grandma Merce," Sophia shouted. "Now Mommy Espe is my real mom, right?" "Oh, my dear child," Mercedes said, wiping her tears. "Elena would be so happy." "She is happy," Sophia corrected, with the absolute confidence of someone who had never doubted that her mommy in heaven could see them. "Last night she told me in my dreams that she was proud of our family." The adults exchanged emotional glances. Sophia had developed a very natural relationship with Elena's memory, talking about her as if she were another member of the family, who simply lived in a different place. "You know what?" Sebastian said. "I think we should go to the cemetery tomorrow to tell Mommy Elena the good news." "Yes, and we can play the new song I'm learning for her." That night, after Sophia fell asleep hugging her small violin, Sebastian and Esperanza sat on the balcony of their San Telmo house, sipping tea and gazing at the stars. "Do you remember the first time we spoke?" Sebastian asked, taking his wife's hand. "On that corner, with all that snow. I remember thinking you were the saddest man I had ever seen," Esperanza replied, "and that your baby had the most beautiful eyes in the world. I thought you were an angel." "I wasn't an angel. I was just a desperate woman playing music on the street." "No," Sebastian said, kissing her hand. "You were exactly what we needed. Elena knew what she was doing when she put you in our path. Do you think she knew we were going to fall in love? Knowing Elena, she probably planned it all from the beginning." They laughed together, comfortable with the idea that Sebastian's love for Elena and his love for Esperanza could coexist without competing with each other. "I told you 5 more applications arrived for the foundation this week," Esperanza asked. "Really? From where?" 3 from Venezuela, 1 from Colombia, and 1 from Argentina. One of the Venezuelan girls plays the cuatro like an angel, according to her video. The Elena Herrera Foundation had become much more than they had initially imagined. In 5 years, they had awarded over 100 full scholarships, opened a free music school in Villa 31, and created a cultural exchange program that connected Latin American musicians with orchestras throughout Argentina. "Elena would be proud," Sebastian murmured. "You know what's craziest of all?" Esperanza said. "That in the end, I got everything I dreamed of when I was a child. I play in a professional orchestra. I have my own music school. I help other artists fulfill their dreams. And I got something I never knew I wanted until I had it. A family. Even with a boring CEO as a husband. Especially with a boring CEO as a husband." She laughed. "Though you're not so boring anymore. Yesterday I saw you singing in the shower." "That doesn't count. Sophia taught me that song." "Oh, Sebastian," Esperanza said, snuggling against his chest. "Who would have thought life could take so many turns? The important thing is where we ended up, not the turns we took to get there." From Sophia's room came the sound of a small melody. They peeked in and saw that the little girl was playing her violin in her sleep, with a peaceful smile on her face. "She's definitely your daughter," Sebastian murmured. "She's ours," Esperanza corrected. "Elena's, mine, yours, everyone who loves her. Do you think we should give her a little brother or sister?" Esperanza looked at him with a mysterious smile. "Why do you think I've been so tired lately?" Sebastian sat up abruptly. "Seriously? 2 months." Esperanza nodded. "I wanted to be sure before I told you." "Esperanza!" he shouted, lifting her into his arms and spinning her around. "I can't believe—" "Shh, you'll wake Sophia. Sophia is going to be a big sister. She already knows," a small voice said from the bedroom door. "The baby told me in my dreams." The parents looked at each other in surprise as Sophia approached barefoot, dragging her violin. "How do you know it's going to be a baby, princess?" "Because Mommy Elena told me she was going to send us a musician sibling too, and that it's going to arrive just in time for my birthday." Esperanza quickly counted in her mind. If she was 2 months along, the baby would be born in December, exactly for Sophia's birthday in January. "And how do you know it's going to be a musician?" Sebastian asked, holding his daughter. "Because in this family, we're all musicians, Daddy. You play the piano, Mommy Espe plays the violin, I play the little violin, and the baby is going to play." She paused, thinking. "The guitar." The 3 laughed together, embracing in the living room, where everything had begun to heal 5 years ago. Outside, snow began to fall again over Buenos Aires. But inside that house in San Telmo, music and love had created a home where 3 people who had lost so much had found everything they needed. In its frame on the piano, Elena's photo seemed to smile, as if she knew exactly what she had accomplished by guiding a lost violinist to the corner where a desperate father needed a miracle. Music had been the beginning, but love had been the true melody that had transformed 3 solitudes into a perfect family symphony. And as Sophia played one last lullaby for the growing baby, Sebastian and Esperanza knew that some stories never end. They simply become new beginnings, full of promises and melodies yet to be discovered. What a truly heartwarming and melodious journey. This story beautifully weaves together themes of loss, unexpected connections, and the transformative power of love and music. What was your favorite moment in this beautiful symphony of a story? Share your thoughts in the comments below.